Imagine this for a moment. You're with someone you care about, the air is heavy with anticipation, and everything slows down to just the two of you. The world outside, it doesn't exist anymore. It's in those moments, those deeply intimate, electric moments, that the smallest actions leave the deepest impressions. And here's the truth, sometimes it's not the words you whisper, not even the rhythm of your breathing, but what you do with your hands that decides whether this moment is simply good or truly unforgettable. Now, most people never think about this. They focus on the obvious, the physical act, but overlook the power of touch, the silent language of your hands. Yet, it's that language that can make him pause weeks, months, even years later, and remember you. Remember the way you made him feel. Because when your hands are intentional, when they're alive with presence, you're not just sharing a moment. You're carving yourself into his memory forever. And here's the part that will surprise you. It's not about technique, it's about energy. The way your hands tell a story, the way they make him feel grounded, desired, understood, that's the secret that separates an experience he'll enjoy from one he'll never forget. Would you like me to keep building from here into the first core point, the power of presence through touch, flowing naturally without formal headings, so the speech feels conversational and immersive for your video? Close your eyes for a second and think about the last time you touched someone you truly cared about. Not in passing, not out of habit, but with intention. Maybe it was holding their face gently. Maybe it was tracing your hand along their arm. Or maybe it was clasping their hand so tightly that they felt your energy rushing into them. That moment, if you think carefully, had a presence about it. You weren't distracted. You weren't thinking about your phone, your day, or what came next. You were there, completely there. And that presence is what turns a simple touch into something unforgettable. When two people share intimacy, the body speaks louder than words ever could. Yet, most people go through the motions almost unconsciously. They hold, they squeeze, they grab, but it's automatic. There's no soul behind it. Presence is when your mind, your heart, and your hands are all aligned in one single intention to connect. When your partner feels that, it's as if the rest of the world disappears. That's why what you do with your hands matters so much. It's not just about where you place them. It's about the energy that flows through them. Your hands can become a channel of your presence, transmitting reassurance, passion, and even love without a single word being spoken. Think of it like this. Imagine sitting across from someone who's telling you a story, but their eyes keep darting to their phone, their posture slouches, their tone drifts. You'd instantly feel they're only half there with you. Now compare that to someone who leans in, looks at you directly, nods at every word you say, almost hanging onto every syllable. Their presence is electric. You feel seen, heard, valued. In intimacy, your hands are that presence. A distracted, mechanical touch is like the drifting eye. It might serve a function, but it doesn't leave a mark. A conscious, deliberate touch, however, is like the focused listener. It imprints itself onto the heart. Presence through touch is about slowing down. In a world where everything is fast, messages, scrolling, conversations, slowing down is rare, and rare is memorable. When you place your hand somewhere with intention, don't rush it. Let it linger. Let your partner feel not just the skin to skin contact, but the meaning behind it. A hand on his chest, held there for a few extra seconds, tells him, I feel your heartbeat, and I want to be here with you in this exact moment. A hand cupped gently around his face tells him, I see you, I'm here with you, I'm not going anywhere. Those small gestures carry a gravity that words can never fully replicate. And here's what's fascinating. The brain remembers touch differently when it's tied to emotion. We've all shaken thousands of hands in our lives, and most of them blur together. But if one handshake happened in a moment of triumph or comfort or connection, we remember it. Intimacy works the same way. If your hands are infused with your presence, his brain won't just register the touch. It will encode it as an emotional memory. He won't just recall your touch. He'll recall the way it made him feel, the safety, the passion, the spark. That memory becomes an anchor, something he'll revisit even long after the moment has passed. Presence is also about listening, not with your ears, but with your hands. Your partner's body speaks if you pay attention. A subtle tightening of his muscles, a shift in his breath, the way he leans into your touch. These are cues. If you're present, your hands respond, adjusting their pressure, slowing down, moving with intention. Suddenly, your touch isn't random anymore. It becomes a dialogue, a dance, a conversation without words. And this is where connection deepens, because he feels not just your touch, but your attention. He knows you're attuned to him. Think about the difference between being hugged loosely versus being hugged by someone who squeezes like they never want to let you go. Same action, completely different impact. Why? Because present changes everything. It tells the other person, you matter to me right now, in this moment, more than anything else in the world. That's what your hands can do when you use them consciously during intimacy. And presence isn't always about being fiery or intense. Sometimes it's in the gentlest, quietest touch that the loudest message is sent. A soft trace along the arm, fingers brushing slowly across the back of the neck, a palm pressed warmly into the small of the back. These moments whisper, I see you, I feel you, I want you here. It's subtle, but it penetrates deeper than any grand gesture could. Because presence isn't about doing more, it's about doing what you already do, but with full awareness. One of the most powerful aspects of presence through touch is that it transcends the physical act. Intimacy will always fade into memory, but the presence you bring during it, that lingers. He might not remember the exact position of your body, but he will remember the moment you placed your hand on his cheek, looked into his eyes, and silently told him everything he needed to know without speaking a word. That becomes the memory he replays, the feeling that returns every time he thinks of you. When your hands are present, they become storytellers. They tell the story of who you are, what you feel, and what he means to you. They can scream passion, they can whisper tenderness. They can ground him when he's losing himself in the moment, but only if you let yourself truly be there, mind, body, and soul. And that is the real secret. Presence through touch isn't just a technique to make someone remember you. It's a way of living, a way of connecting, a way of ensuring that every moment you share is imprinted not only in his memory, but also in his heart. Because at the end of the day, long after the moment has passed, long after the physical fades, what remains is how you made him feel. And nothing makes someone feel more deeply than knowing, without question, that in that moment, you were fully, unapologetically present. Think back to a moment in your life that you can still feel, not just remember. Maybe it was the time someone held your hand when you were scared, or the time a hug seemed to melt all the weight you were carrying. You probably don't remember the exact details of the room, or even what words were said, but the feeling, that's what stayed. That is the power of an emotional anchor. It's a moment so charged with emotion that it ties itself to your memory, and every time something reminds you of it, the feeling rushes back like a wave. Now, here's where intimacy becomes unforgettable. When you use your hands with intention, when you're fully present in those vulnerable, passionate moments, you're not just touching his body. You're tying a thread between this moment and the emotions he will carry with him. You're creating an anchor. Every gentle squeeze, every stroke, every placement of your hand has the potential to become a memory that pulls him back to you again and again. An emotional anchor works because the brain doesn't separate physical sensation from emotion. They get stored together. Imagine listening to a song during a time when you were deeply in love. Years later, you hear that song again, and suddenly, without even trying, you're back there, your chest tightens, your eyes water, your lips curl into a smile. The music is the trigger, but the anchor is the feeling you had when you first experienced it. Your hands can become that song for him. The way you touch him in moments of closeness can be a melody his body never forgets. Think about how a simple gesture, like placing your hand on his chest, can transform when it's done with emotion. To him, it won't just feel like your palm against his skin. It will be encoded as this is where she felt my heartbeat. This is when I knew she wanted me. This is when I felt safe with her. That one act becomes a memory he can return to every time he needs to feel grounded or loved. And the more intentional you are, the deeper the anchor sets. Anchors also have a unique way of multiplying. Let's say you place your hand gently along his jawline in a moment of passion, and he feels both your desire and your tenderness. The next time you touch him in that same way, the memory of the first moment will come rushing back. The touch becomes layered, weighted with history, and every time it happens again, the bond strengthens. Before you know it, one simple gesture becomes your signature, something only you can do in a way that ignites a flood of emotion in him. That's the kind of thing he never forgets. But here's the secret: anchors aren't about exaggeration. They don't come from grand or dramatic actions. They come from consistency, from authenticity, from letting your emotion bleed through your touch. The small, repeated moments. The way you hold his hand tighter when he kisses you. The way your fingers trace his back when he's close. The way you rest your hand on his chest when you're lying together. These become woven into his emotional fabric. He may not even notice in the moment how powerful it is, but over time, those little touches create an unshakable connection. Think of it like scent. We've all experienced how one smell can suddenly transport us back to childhood, to a specific room, or a certain person. It's not because the scent is extraordinary. It's because the scent was tied to a feeling we once had. Your hands can have the same effect. The way you touch him, if done with genuine emotion, will eventually become something he associates only with you. A hand on the back of his neck won't just feel like a hand. It will feel like your hand. And that distinction is everything. There's also a vulnerability to creating anchors. You can't fake them. You can't go through the motions and expect him to remember. He'll only feel it if you're really in it, if your touch is driven by real passion, real care, real desire. And when he feels it, that's when the anchor locks in place. Because what he'll remember most is not that you touched him, it's that you made him feel something deeper than physical pleasure. You made him feel wanted, safe, adored, alive. What's even more powerful is how anchors can resurface unexpectedly. Maybe one day he's walking down the street and he feels the breeze against his skin in a way that reminds him of your touch. Or maybe he's lying in bed and instinctively places his hand where yours used to rest. Those triggers will pull him back to you, even when you're not around. That's how strong an anchor can be. It becomes part of his subconscious. And the beauty of it all is that creating emotional anchors doesn't require effort so much as awareness. It's about being fully tuned into the moment and letting your hands speak for you. It's about slowing down enough to let every touch matter, to let every gesture hold weight. When you do that, intimacy stops being something fleeting and starts being something eternal. It lives on in him long after the moment has ended. In the end, what we remember in life are not the countless routine moments, but the ones that touched us deeply. The ones where we felt seen, valued, desired. When you create emotional anchors with your touch, you ensure that he doesn't just remember the experience, he remembers you. Not just your body, but your energy, your presence, your love. And that's the kind of memory that never fades, the kind that keeps drawing him back again and again, no matter how much time passes. Because when you create emotional anchors, you're not just sharing intimacy, you're building a legacy inside his heart. And legacies, they last forever. Picture this: two people together, lost in the intensity of the moment. The world outside has dissolved. The room feels smaller, quieter, warmer. There's passion in the air, but there's also uncertainty, an unspoken question of what next. In those moments, your hands can do more than just touch. They can lead, they can comfort, they can reassure. They can transform what could have been an ordinary encounter into something safe, meaningful, and unforgettable. Guidance and reassurance are powerful because they tap into something fundamental: trust. Every human being, no matter how confident they appear, carries with them insecurities, doubts, and fears. When someone allows themselves to be vulnerable with you, they're essentially saying, I trust you with the parts of me I don't show the world. That's sacred. And your hands, more than your words, have the ability to honor that trust. Think about the moments when someone placed a hand on your shoulder and suddenly you felt calmer. They didn't have to say, it's okay, I've got you. Their touch did all the speaking. That's the essence of reassurance. Now translate that to intimacy. A simple hand running gently down his back, fingers gripping just tightly enough to say, "I'm here, stay with me." Or a hand on his face, thumb brushing his cheek in a rhythm that tells him you're safe, you're wanted, you're exactly where you need to be. Those gestures guide him through the experience and quiet every doubt in his head. Guidance is equally important because intimacy is not just about what he does or what you do. It's a dance, two people moving in sync. But here's the truth. Not everyone knows how to dance. Some people hesitate, some move too fast, some get lost in their own rhythm. This is where your hands become the leaders. When you place your hand on the back of his neck and gently adjust his movement, you're not just shifting his body. You're teaching him your language. When you press your palm against his chest to slow him down, you're showing him the pace that brings you closer. When you slide your hands to his hips and guide him toward you, you're inviting him deeper into connection. Guiding doesn't mean controlling. It's not about taking over or dictating. It's about creating a flow, a balance where both people feel seen and heard. Your hands can say, "Let's slow down, let's savor this," or "Come closer, don't hold back." And when he responds to that guidance, the intimacy becomes something shared, something alive, something that grows with every movement. Reassurance, on the other hand, is what keeps the experience grounded. Passion can be overwhelming, even frightening at times, because letting go means losing control. But when you use your hands to anchor him, to hold, to steady, to calm, you remind him that he's not alone in that surrender. He can let go because you've got him. Imagine his body tensing, unsure if he's doing enough or if he's giving too much. A hand on his chest, pressed firmly but lovingly, instantly tells him, "You're perfect, don't overthink it." That single act can silence every insecurity and allow him to fully enjoy the moment. And here's something many forget. Guidance and reassurance don't just serve him, they serve you too. They give you the ability to shape the connection into something that reflects your needs, your desires, your comfort. When your hands communicate clearly, you don't have to use words to explain what you want. Instead, you show him. And in showing him, you create a space where both of you are satisfied, understood, and fulfilled. Hands are powerful because they bypass the mind. Words can be misheard, misunderstood, or overanalyzed. But touch is immediate, primal, undeniable. When you guide with your hands, there's no confusion about your intention. When you reassure with your hands, there's no doubt about your sincerity. It cuts straight to the heart of connection. Think of a time when you were nervous, maybe before a big moment, and someone squeezed your hand. That squeeze didn't just calm you, it empowered you. It told you, "You can do this, I'm with you." That's exactly the same power your hands carry in intimate moments. You're telling him, "I see you, I want you, I'm right here with you." And when he feels that, he's not just connecting with your body, he's connecting with your soul. This is why the art of guiding and reassuring is unforgettable. Long after the moment is over, long after the physical details fade, what stays with him is the way you made him feel safe enough to let go, brave enough to explore, and confident enough to give himself fully. Your hands become a symbol of that memory. They become the reason he thinks back and says, "I'll never forget the way she made me feel." And the beautiful thing is, it doesn't require complicated techniques or rehearsed moves. It only requires intention. If your intention is to guide with care, to reassure with love, your hands will naturally find the right places, the right pressures, the right rhythms. Because it's not about perfection. It's about presence. It's about being tuned into him, reading him, responding to him, and letting your hands become the bridge between his vulnerability and your reassurance. In the end, guiding and reassuring with your hands is not just an act during intimacy. It's a reflection of how you connect as a whole. It shows that you can lead without dominating, that you can comfort without smothering, that you can love without words. And that balance, that subtle mastery, is what transforms a fleeting moment into a lasting memory, because he won't just remember the way you touched him. He'll remember the way your touch made him feel safe, guided, and free all at once. And that, more than anything else, is what keeps a moment alive forever. Every person carries their own unique rhythm, their own language of desire, comfort, and connection. What excites one may overwhelm another. What soothes one may barely register with someone else. That's why intimacy cannot be a one-size-fits-all experience. To make a moment unforgettable, to make someone feel like they've just experienced something that could never be replicated, you have to personalize your touch. Your hands cannot simply repeat what you think should be done. They must adapt, listen, and mold themselves to the person in front of you. Personalizing your touch begins with curiosity. Too often, people approach intimacy with assumptions. This is what usually works, or this is what I've seen others do. But when you carry that mindset, you're giving a generic experience. It might be pleasant, but it won't leave an imprint. On the other hand, when you approach with curiosity, you become an explorer. Every sight, every shift in his body, every change in his breath becomes a clue. Your hands are no longer just moving randomly. They're paying attention, learning him, discovering what is uniquely his. Imagine running your fingers down his arm. At first, you might do it slowly, gently, just to test. You notice his shoulders relax, his breathing deepens. That tells you something softness resonates with him. Now imagine trying a firmer grip across his chest, and you feel his muscles respond with a different kind of energy. That's another piece of information. Bit by bit, you're building a map, understanding not only what feels good, but what makes him feel alive. That map allows you to personalize your touch in ways no one else can, because no one else has studied him with that level of presence. Personalization is also about intention. Anyone can place their hand on someone's body, but not everyone can make it feel like that touch belongs uniquely to them. It's not just about the action. It's about the message behind it. If you touch his face with tenderness, he should feel that you're not just admiring him physically, but cherishing who he is in that moment. If you grip his hand firmly, it should feel like an anchor, a silent promise that you're not letting go. Each action becomes less about following some invisible script and more about communicating your own emotions to him in a way that he can feel instantly. What makes personalized touch so powerful is its unpredictability. When someone already knows exactly what's coming, the magic fades. But when your touch adapts to him, responds to him, surprises him, he can't forget it. Maybe your hands trail lightly across his stomach, and then suddenly you press firmly into his back, pulling him closer. That change in rhythm tells him you're not just going through motions, you're playing the music of the moment. You're giving him something alive, dynamic, and uniquely tailored to him. That's unforgettable. But personalization isn't just about variety, it's about meaning. Maybe you notice he loves when your hand rests on his chest. Don't just do it because it works. Tie it to something deeper. Every time you do it, let it carry the message, I want to feel your heartbeat. I want to know you're real. I want to be here with you. That repetition, paired with intention, turns a simple gesture into his favorite memory. Over time, he won't just like it. He'll crave it because no one else will be able to replicate the meaning behind your touch. Another layer of personalization comes from self-awareness. Your hands carry your personality, your style, your unique energy. If you're playful, your touch might include teasing strokes, light brushes that make him laugh or shiver. If you're passionate, your touch might be more gripping, urgent, almost impossible to ignore. If you're nurturing, your touch might linger longer, giving comfort along with desire. The point is not to force yourself into a style that isn't yours. The point is to amplify what is already inside you and let it shine through your touch. Because authenticity always leaves the strongest impression. Listening to his body is essential, but so is listening to your own. When your touch comes from a place of genuine desire, he will feel it. If your hand trembles slightly from excitement, that vulnerability is powerful. If your grip tightens instinctively when passion peaks, that rawness speaks louder than any technique could. Personalization means your hands aren't performing, they're expressing. And that expression is what makes the experience unique to the two of you, impossible to duplicate. It's also important to remember that personalization doesn't stop when the moment ends. The way you touch him outside of intimacy contributes just as much. A hand brushing his shoulder when you pass by, fingers entwined with his during a walk, a playful squeeze of his hand in public, all these moments build a foundation. Then, when you're in the heat of passion, Your hands are not just touching his body, they're carrying all those smaller memories with them. Every intimate gesture becomes layered with context, history, and emotion. That's why he'll never forget it. And here's the final piece: personalization requires courage. It's easier to play it safe, to stick with what's familiar, to do what you know works. But to personalize means to step out of that comfort zone and truly reveal yourself. It means saying through your touch, I'm not here to just give you pleasure. I'm here to share who I am with you, and I want to know who you are too. That vulnerability is magnetic. When he feels that you're not just touching his skin, but reaching for his soul, that's when the connection becomes eternal. In the end, personalizing your touch is about making him feel like no one else could ever recreate what he's just experienced. Not because you're doing something dramatically different, but because you're doing it with him, for him, and because of him. You're learning him, adapting to him, expressing yourself through him, and that combination is rare. Rare is unforgettable, and unforgettable is exactly what your hands can be when they stop following rules and start following the truth of the moment. Because the reality is, he won't remember the textbook moves, the rehearsed gestures, the predictable patterns. He'll remember the way your hands seemed to know him better than he knew himself. He'll remember the way your touch carried your essence, your personality, your love. And long after the moment is over, that memory will stay because it was his, it was yours, and it was one of a kind. There comes a point in every intimate experience where time seems to blur. The world outside doesn't matter, the ticking clock disappears, and all that's left is the intensity of connection between two people. But here's the truth: no matter how long that moment lasts, it will always come to an end. The real question is, when it's over, will it fade into just another memory, or will it live on inside him, etched so deeply that he can't forget it even if he tried? That's where the art of turning intimacy into a lasting impression comes in. Lasting impressions aren't about perfection. They're not about flawless execution, endless stamina, or some magical move that no one else has ever discovered. They're about the energy you bring, the emotions you stir, and the way you make him feel after it's all done. Because long after the heat cools, what endures is not the mechanics of the experience, but the emotional imprint it leaves behind. That imprint is what separates a fleeting encounter from one that defines how he thinks about you every time your name crosses his mind. Think about this: people often forget exact details, but they never forget how someone made them feel. You might not remember the precise words of encouragement someone once gave you, but you remember how inspired you felt walking away. You might not recall the specifics of a trip you took, but you can still feel the joy of that adventure whenever you think back. The same is true of intimacy. He may not recall the exact sequence of touches, but he will remember the way you made him feel safe, desired, alive, and completely lost in the moment. That's the true legacy of intimacy, when it lives beyond the act itself. So, how do you turn intimacy into that kind of lasting impression? It begins with authenticity. When your actions are genuine, when every touch and every movement comes from a real place inside you, it creates a kind of magic. There's nothing to compare it to because it isn't performance, it's expression. It's you unfiltered. And that level of authenticity is rare in a world where so many people put on masks. He will never forget the way